I'm poor right now. I only have 90 million gil. This is a very small amount of gil for me. And I've never been this poor except when I was a new player. I mean, I do have a lot of extra gil, like on my retainer, but that doesn't count. I'm talking about, like, you know, gil that's on my character in her pocket. Okay, it's just not a lot. And so I want to know, how can I get more gil? Don't waste your time. Well, I don't want to waste my time because time is money. And so time is money, friend. Okay, how do I actually make gil? How do the richest players actually make gil? That's the question. How do we do it? Let's get rich.
Do you ever watch random Final Fantasy 14 YouTubers,
What?
see their gil, and think to yourself, how come this guy has 999 million gil, and yet
I don't have anywhere near that much.
here I am, not spending anything, and yet I struggle to pay for my 10th teleport to the Waking Sands today?
This is fine.
You shouldn't be paying for that because they give you tickets now to go to the Waking Sands. So you shouldn't be paying for the... Wait a minute. You can't teleport to the Waking Sands. There was never an ETH right there. So of course you're spending a lot of money. Like, I don't know who's selling it to you, but they're scamming you because there's not really an ETH right there.
If you do,
Wait, did Minfilia sell the tickets to you?
your most
Ash 10 is actually a great channel for crafters. This is true. Ash 10, that is the person to go to if you do not know anything about crafting. If you want to get into crafting and gathering, lots of amazing resources.
certainly not alone. I think pretty much every player wants to know how you can make this much gil. The problem is, the people who...
The thing is, actually the problem is that I don't like to craft and gather. I don't want to craft and I don't want to gather. Like, I just want to make gil, but I want to play the game. And yeah, people say crafting and gathering is playing the game, but not for me. Not for me. It's not fun for me. I don't want to do that.
have made that much have no reason whatsoever to tell you how they got there. The methods of making gil that are commonly thrown around get you some of the way, but
Yeah.
nothing you will find online will make you a rich player immediately. Most gil making videos just reiterate the same two methods over and over, and yet hardly any of them actually work to the degree we'd need them to if we wanted to amass this much moolah. This is why I've mostly stayed away from making
I made a guide on how to make gil, and I don't remember what I put in it, but I can make the guide for you right now. How would I normally go about making gil? Sell crap from the deep dungeon runs. And there's mounts that can drop there. There's glamours that can drop there. The mount that can drop in a deep dungeon run usually costs around 10, 15, maybe even up to 20 million gil, depending on which one it is. That's where I made a ton of money. Heaven on High deep dungeon runs, I went in there with a group of 4, myself included, and we just ran it over and over in Heaven on High. If you clear Heaven on High 4 times, you get a mount. Everybody gets a mount. But in the process of trying to get everybody their mount from Heaven on High, you might have a sellable mount drop, and you can make a ton of money off of that. I had like 4 or 5 of these dodos drop from Heaven on High, and I made a shitload of money doing that. You can sell crap from treasure map runs, get a bunch of people together, go do treasure maps. If you like a night, maybe once a night, I mean once a week, one night out of the week, you could go do that. It's a pretty lazy way to make like $1 million, maybe 2, probably not a lot more than that, but it's like really effortless. You could spend your Grand Company seals on the maybe the loot boxes that they sell now at the Grand Company that have mounts or minions inside. You could maybe sell some of the minions that you got out of there, or you could use the Grand Company seals to like buy shit that might be selling well on your server. Those things can change all the time, but maybe like sometimes some of the furnishings sell okay, but in general, Grand Company seals it's hard to make money on. You can sell your poetics, like you get your poetics and exchange them for the Thanalon soil, sell that. You can sell sometimes your extra tomestones you can buy crafting materials with and sell that on the market board. Actually, where I made most of my money in the beginning when I was brand new was gardening, and I made videos about gardening that are still relevant, that are still current, that I made like 6 years ago that still are accurate because they have not updated the system. So gardening is a really good way to make gil. That's pretty easy if you can just keep up with watering your plants, because you can lose a lot of gil if you have a bunch of expensive plants there and you forget to water them, they will die. That's happened to me and it sucks. So you do have to pay a little bit of it, but it's fun. Like, I think that's really fun. It's an easy way to make gil. You could just do straight up mindless gathering while listening to if you like Netflix, if you like podcasts, you could just do mindlessly gather. I used to gather in Diadem before they changed it, but I guess you could still do that. Ishgard restoration you can do, like the firmament. You could probably craft shit in there and get the tokens that you can buy emotes and shit with and sell that on the market board. Baja Eureka, that's another one. You can do that. They have the loot boxes there that you can collect and sell mounts, hairstyles, minions, emotes from those places for a ton of gil on the market board as well. So like hairstyles are always in demand, mounts, emotes, minions, these are always in demand no matter where they come from. So these are all places that, like, really good ways that you could make gil where you're having fun playing the game. And if you don't like crafting and gathering, okay, I know some people have fun playing the game while they're crafting and gathering. Okay, I get that. I cannot understand that. So if you're like me and you don't want to craft and gather, those are just all the things that I would say, that I would list off the top of my head of ways to make gil that I think would be effective.
Making a video or two per week about the latest and greatest gil making methods. And that's why this video too.
Wait, you made friends with a female in game and her simps give her stuff and she gives it to me? Yeah, I mean, you could pretend to be, you could, let's just say, you could be creative with your role play in Limsa. And you could gather some resources that way. You know, I'm not here to judge.
Will not be a guide, and instead some general advice that I've learned over multiple years. Let me tell you about the biggest farce in this game. Okay. Everyone will tell you that leveling your crafters and then simply crafting the latest gear is what you will make gil with.
This is a bad idea because everybody's doing that now. Like, maybe long ago that would have worked, but now there's so many people crafting because the crafting was made so much more accessible that the prices dropped significantly than what they used to be. But I mean, sometimes you can actually, I have another tip for you. If you look, this is really like not always a guarantee. It's going to vary a lot depending on what's going on in your server. Every server is going to be different. But one thing that you can do if you are bored is sometimes you can look at what is the Grand Company asking for their provisioning missions and supply missions. And if it's cheap for you to make it and it's easy for you to make it, sometimes you can craft this shit and sell it and people will go buy this so they can turn it into their Grand Company and get easy XP because they don't feel like crafting but they want to level their crafter, so they can just buy this shit from you, turn it into the Grand Company. This is just an option that's out there. Sometimes these things are really expensive and people are so lazy they do not want to craft it themselves and they will pay anything for this stuff that usually is really cheap to craft yourself, but they're just way too lazy to do it themselves. So that's a way you can profit off of other people's laziness.
This might have been a good source of gil a few years ago, but nowadays,
that's what I just said. Hey,
there are more players, crafting is easier than ever,
that's what I just said.
And there are people throwing resources at you. You can find the perfect melts, including the crafting rotations you need online, and get into it within 20 minutes of reaching max level on any of the crafter jobs. In short, the supply for max level crafted gear as well as consumables is higher than it has ever been. In fact, the entire crafting market is just a giant Ouroboros. The majority of crafters are just making things for other crafters to make money with, for other crafters to make money with, and so on. I remember watching so many videos on people claiming to have some method of making gil once the patch drops, and one of those methods included stacking materia. Now, selling materia in general is not a bad market. However, when you start stockpiling materia, the problem is you actually have to end up selling it all. The flaw in the logic here is very obvious. First of all, they made videos on this telling everyone the exact methods that they're going to use.
I don't know how much of a difference this actually makes. Like, I'm sure it makes some difference, but I feel like the percentage of players that are actually looking deep into YouTube on like how to make money guides is so tiny compared to the sheer number of people that play the game. Like, there's a fraction of people that watch a YouTube video, and there's a fraction of those people that will watch specific guild making YouTube videos. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it affects it to some degree, but I also kind of don't feel like it's a massive amount. But in general, it's probably good practice to not tell people what you're making all that money on, like what exactly you're selling, because if you can corner a market for yourself on something in particular, you're going to do a lot better than trying to sell items in an incredibly competitive market like materia. So like it's a good idea to try to find a balance between something that's going to sell often and something that is not got so many freaking people trying to sell that exact same thing that you're going to struggle for anybody to finally get to your listing. You know what I'm saying?
Meaning everyone was doing the same thing. And second of all, high-end raiders play this game so much, you can bet that they already have all the materia that they're ever going to need. The end result was hundreds of frustrated players with stacks of 300 or more.
You know, I actually never thought about that before. The fact that a lot of raiders who have statics and everything, they have stockpiles, they have FCs with massive stockpiles of materia that could last them the whole expansion. Like, we're not going to be getting new materia this expansion. So you're pretty much good to go with your stockpile forever until 7.0. So like maybe at the start of the expansion, the prices can be insanely high, but it will only get worse and worse as the expansion goes on.
More of whatever materia in the inventory and no one to actually buy it. At least not at the price that they were hoping for, and not without them camping their retainers all day. Another piece of wisdom
Did you see? Undercutter POV. Oh my god.
You will hear over and over.
Now they have the well, I heard. Okay, I don't know, but I heard that they have the add-ons now that automatically, when they're searching through the listing for an item, it automatically copies onto their clipboard the price that is 1 gil lower than the lowest price currently up. So they can speed run
over again as well
now.
Is to craft during the release of a major patch and sell new gear sets and raid consumables. The problem here is that not only do you have to not have a job to play whenever the servers come online, which is usually a Tuesday, you're also going to have to play the entire day because you will be undercut constantly, and that's after you spend millions and millions on your own gear, materia and crafter food. It's frustrating, time consuming, and there's just a lot of luck involved.
Look, I'm so glad that he's saying all this to let people know, because I feel like the go-to answer really is often, well, just do crafting. Like, it's because it seems like that would be the logical end step of how do I make money in this game? Like, because almost any game, especially MMOs, the answer is the same. Craft high-level food and potions and gear, right? Like, that should do it. But it's not always that intuitive, and it's probably better for you to forge your own way, find little markets that you can corner and not tell anybody.
Over my time playing this game, I've never had a single one of the people I play with get rich overnight during one of those patch releases. They always complain about the market for 2 days, make back the gil they spent on gear, and maybe a little bit more, and then they end up burnt out after spending the majority of their week pressing their macro button over and over.
This is why all the ways that I told you to make gil do not involve crafting together. Well, it's also because I do not know how to craft and gather effectively. I can't give advice about that. It's just not something I ever got that interested in. But then again, I think about like the way that I played Elder Scrolls Online when I played that. I usually play that like it's Eve online. Like, I set up spreadsheets and I love to craft and gather, and like I would make spreadsheets of what would be my profit margins for every particular item. And I would join the biggest trading guild, so I was always have access to the biggest and the best traders that everybody would be going to. And I like did analysis of how much is this component and how much profit can I get from this thing at this time, and where can I buy it that's going to be will give me the biggest markup, right? And I loved that. I always got really involved in that when I played Elder Scrolls, but I never got into crafting in this game. And maybe it's because it might be harder to turn such an insane profit in here.
Saying it's not possible.
I mean, assuming that you don't want to gather your own shit, because in Elder Scrolls Online, I often, like when I was at the peak of my game in there, I was not gathering my own shit at that point. Like, I was just playing the market board and just crafting only.
To make gil with crafters. Quite the contrary. But the gil you're looking for is probably not in the items everyone else is looking to craft as well. The one thing anyone that has a large amount of gil will tell you is that above all, what really sells is one thing: convenience.
High competition is low margins, yes, but sometimes a little competition is okay, and sometimes it's unavoidable if it is something that is selling like hotcakes. Right? Like if it's something that you know is going to sell and there's a small to a moderate amount of competition, you can thrive in it. And it would be, you kind of have to, balance it out for yourself. Will this sell often enough that I can make enough of it to turn a good profit? Or is there so many other people selling it that nobody will ever get to mine?
Technically, players hate having to put in the least bit of effort to solve small problems, but are happy spending hours upon hours AFK crafting for a few 100,000 gil per hour. The thing they hate the most is looking up where to get the small things. This is where the easy gil can be found. To name just one example, one of the biggest markets in the game isn't actually gear or raid consumables, it's furniture. Every day, millions of gil are spent by players looking to decorate.
This is such a good point, actually. Yeah, because like a lot of times people will get a house, or they'll get a new apartment, or they'll get a new room in their FC house, and they're excited and they really want to put stuff in it right this second, and they don't want to wait, and they don't want to craft it themselves, and off to the market board they go. Like that's probably the thing that people are browsing the market board for a lot. Because a lot of times I'm not interested in decorating right now my house, because my house is fine right now. So when I go to the market board, it feels like, when you just walk to the fridge and you open it expecting to find something new in it, but it's all the same shit. Like that's usually how it feels when I go to the market board. But the people that are actively decorating their house, it's like they're going to the fridge and they're hungry, and there's always new stacks in there for them to put inside their house. So it's just one of these things. Oh, it's even easier now, because now in your house they have the house furnishing preview feature that they've added to the game. So people are able to see inside their preview of all kinds of cute stuff that they can put in there. And so it's like advertising for you of the shit that you're going to be selling them.
Their houses or apartments, and virtually everyone buys their furniture off the market board. Many of the furniture items you'll find use items from Time Knows, or weird items that have to be bought one at a time from housing merchants.
Oh, that looks so nice. Whose house is this? This looks great.
They're a nuisance to craft, especially when you're in the creative workflow of designing your dream kitchen. But players are willing to spend extraordinary amounts of gil for the convenience of simply getting these items instead of having to create them themselves, even if they know full well that they are massively overpaying. To back this point up, and at the risk of ruining my own market here, I've been pulling in close to 500,000 gil per day selling windows at little to no competition. That's just about 10 or 20 windows per day, and usually players will buy them in bulk. I buy the steel ingots from tribe vendors maybe every...
Did you just ruin your own game here? Did you just do that? Because didn't you say a second ago, don't tell anybody when you're selling? Thank you for your service. Because the thing is, though, when people buy these windows, they don't just buy one. They buy like 100 and cover every wall in windows in their house.
2 months in like stacks of 999. I gather the time blocks whenever I feel like it, which takes perhaps a minute each time. The craft itself only takes a single button, it's not a macro. The item itself doesn't even have to be high quality, because no one cares about the quality of a furniture item. So the total time investment per window is probably less than 30 seconds, including the time I spend gathering and putting it on the market board.
Great advice.
And yet the competition is close to nothing. I usually put the windows up in the morning after just getting them from my retainer's inventory, where I put them after crafting them in bulk within 10 minutes, which I do about once a week, and all of these windows will have sold by the evening. This is just a single item. Think about the total amount of gil you can make from various furniture items. And even if you can't or don't want to craft, convenience is still something.
The window is a good one though, because it's like, it's irrespective of whatever style you're going for inside your house. It's not like very specific to a certain look. It's something that everybody wants is windows. So also I think some of the lightings are probably a good bet.
You can make gil with. For example, there's
You said it's a window of opportunity.
are many dice that can only be bought from Beast Tribe vendors. Buying these in bulk from the vendor and selling them over time at a price of 20 to 30 times the original vendor price isn't uncommon at all. You may think that this is a tiny market and there's no way you can get rich off of it. But the thing is, the time investment is close to nothing outside of checking your sales on the market board.
But you do have the time investment of getting your reputation up with that Beast Tribe, don't you? I mean, so that's why you can kind of justify selling a die that you bought for what? How much is this die? Like 300 gil, 200, 300 gil, right? You can justify selling that for 3,000 gil because you had to go through the pain of the ass of helping the sylphs and carrying their garlic bulb from one side of the sylphlands all the way to the other and standing in the middle of nowhere waiting for their pig to spawn with your thumb up your ass. You deserve 3,000 gil for each one of those because other people do not want to do that.
Investment is close to nothing outside of checking your sales on the market board once or twice per day. And when you can sell the die that you bought for 200 gil for 3,000 gil, that's a profit of 277,000 gil per stack. And that's without crafting anything. The reason it sells, again, is convenience. To buy the die from the vendor, the person buying has to first know that the item can be bought from a vendor. Then they have to actually have the resources to figure out where it's sold. Then they have to have the tribe that has the vendor unlocked. And then they still need to fly over there to buy 10 measly pots of dye.
Yeah, so he's mentioning this website, Garland Tools. Let's pull it up here. The website, garlandtools.org. And you can click on Garland data. Type in anything in the game. So he said, shale dye. Type it in. And it brings up this thing. Where does it come from? Well, shops. The Sylphic vendor. The Sylphic vendor sells it over here. So this will... Can't you... I think sometimes these will link to... okay, yeah. You click this little cog. Open on Gamer Escape. And it'll show you on Gamer Escape who sells it, where they are, all that shit. So, and also see how it has a... See how we go here and it has this little warning symbol? It means it's not so easy to just buy it. It says... This item is only available during or after the pilfered poglings. The pilfered poglings. That's that garlic bulb quest that I was just fucking talking about. Okay, so it means that you have to do work first for them to sell it to you. I really like poglings, so that's hilarious. Poglings.
Measly
it's like Twitch viewers.
Pots of dye. I would wager that 90% of players would rather buy the dice off the market board to get it over with. And telling you about the market of reselling dice actually doesn't hurt me at all. Because if there's one market that shouldn't exist, it's this. There's one last factor that I want to mention when it comes to making gil, and that's the amount of time you have to invest. An item may sell for 10 million gil.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Go get it. Go get the Night Pegasus.
But if you have to invest 20 hours of your time to get it, was it really worth it?
20 hours for 14 million gil. Yeah. I think so. I mean, because I didn't have to do any crafting. And I got to do Palace of the Dead. So it's not like it's 20 hours that you flush down the toilet, right? Like you had a good time doing Palace of the Dead because Palace of the Dead is fun. Especially you can do it with a group of friends. You guys are having a good time. You're doing stuff together. That has value, right? Like how do you value your time? What do you want to spend your time doing is a question you need to ask yourself.
What you need to be thinking about is not just the total sale price, but the gil you...
And by the way, though, it's not a guarantee that Night Pegasus will drop. But... if you believe it will drop, it might drop, okay? It's a gamba. Isn't gamba fun?
You can make per hour. The thing that will make you rich isn't something that takes hours per day, but a little bit of effort at a time.
Little bit of effort for consistent reward every day, or big gamba. You know which one I'm gonna pick every time. It's so bad.
The goal is to have something sustainable. The truth is...
The guy is giving you good advice. Okay, you should probably not listen to me.
That the majority of players has realistically 2 hours to play per day.
Wait, what? This survey group was about equally split between heavy gamers who spend an average of 18 hours per week playing MMOs and moderate gamers who play an average of 10 to 12 hours per week. So it showed that they... Where's the part where it shows how many hours they...
And that time can be better.
10 to 12 hours per week. Well, maybe it's just 12 hours in one day and they're doing nothing. I mean, they're doing IRL. They're ERLs for the rest of the week.
To spend than pressing a macro to craft consumables for tiny margins. It's better to sell 100,000 gil worth of easily crafted items than spending 2 hours crafting maybe 500,000 worth of consumables. With these points being made, here are the 3 ingredients for your perfect
really
market
advice.
niche. Low supply, convenience, time efficiency.
But also you should probably also factor in and I'm gonna demonstrate this to you right now, Charlotte, because this is all good things to think about. Low supply, like how much competition do you have? Convenience, how much of a pain in the ass is it for you? How much like is this really the way that you want to invest your time? Is this going to be fun for you to invest your time in this way, which is related to time efficiency? What's the return on the time that you put in? But another thing that you should think about is, you know, if you're selling Coke, how often is it being purchased? So whenever you look at the thing that you're going to buy, that you're going to sell, check the history and check to see how often are people buying Coke, right? It is selling like hotcakes. It is flying off the shelves. Whale lamp. In this case, yes. Like, how many people have a habit, okay, of buying the thing that you were trying to sell? Because, I mean, there have been cases where I saw it all looked good from here, and it's like seemed like, oh, this is a good thing, it's selling at a good price, it's fine. But then you forget to check this right here, and you need to know how many times was it sold, like, today. Like, this is from the September 30th. Nobody bought one since September 30th. Don't sell that. Do not do that. That is not enough people buying it for you to even consider doing that. Not a good idea.
Will finding that niche make you rich immediately? Most definitely not. The players you see with large amounts of gil have acquired it over years. The guy with 999 million gil probably took advantage of every gil making opportunity over multiple expansions. And I'll bet he wouldn't be crafting consumables right now. At the end of the day, the players who have that much gil...
Here's the thing too. Okay. He mentioned at the start of the video, oh, I've seen this YouTuber, this Final Fantasy YouTuber, streamer, and I've seen the
probably
creator,
do it because
they have a shitload of gil. And they're just holding on to that gil. Where are they getting all that gil? Remember that people like to give content creators free shit, okay? To show their appreciation for the channel, a lot of times people will come and give like food, potions, mounts, minions, stuff that they then do not have to buy. So you can get a skewed impression of how much is a normal amount of gil to have when you're watching a content creator, because like you don't see all the shit that they got for free or even all the gil that they were just straight up given. So that's just something to keep in mind and not get discouraged if you feel like you just, you know, you're not holding on to gil, you're having to spend a lot, you know.
They enjoy it.
It's
For
not
them,
realistic
it's
all
the
the
main
time.
part of the game. To anyone that gets stressed about making gil, you can get by just using the gil that the game throws at you for certain weekly or daily content just fine. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I feel like maybe more than any other game, Final Fantasy XIV does not make me feel like I need to spend my gil. Like, it's extremely rare that I feel like I do need to spend gil on stuff. The only time that I really need to do that would be for potions and raid gear, like raid potions, raid food. But even in that case, if you can't afford it, and if you're having problems paying for gear and food, if you have a static or if you have an FC, a lot of times those people are going to be willing to help you out and maybe make it a lot cheaper for you, ask for only a couple of materials, and you can work with other people and they're going to be happy to help you with that a lot of times. So yeah, overall it was a fantastic video. It was a really good video because it went into all the problems with just everyday normal crafting and like trying to craft and make a ton of money from doing normal raid gear, because that can be a really competitive market. Addressing the issues with selling and stockpiling materia to sell. Excellent video. I loved it. So here's a link to it. Super informative, super helpful.